In today's podcast, I talk with Niels Koppelman, founder and managing director of 3Tech, a German-based CRO agency. Niels has followed a path of developing positive customer experiences even before he went to university in Berlin. We discuss how in Germany, experimentation is still somewhat in its infancy, and how Niels is aiming to broaden the understanding that A/B testing and CRO are crucial in website design. Niels, looking at your LinkedIn, it seems like you decided that you want to go do your own thing from a very early age. Only weeks after your A-levels, you decided to go into business. What stimulated that?
Um, I think I have to go one step back because I think that started way earlier when I was probably like 13, 14, 15. At that time, I was working in theaters as a technician, and later went on to design websites and online shops and build them for that matter for friends, family, and at some point also clients. And after my A levels, I just decided to do that. Then from that point onward, I went to Berlin, like I think 1.5 years later, to start my studies in university, and then built the agency here in Berlin.
Was it something that you did whilst you were still at university, or was it you kind of just parked it and then came back to it after you came out?
It was really when I was at university, I was already like building and working with clients, and that just intensified over time, and it just became my main business. For that matter, I think my studies, yeah, were in a way lacking, or I didn't put enough attention there, and so quickly over time, I shifted all of my attention to the company now.
So a lot of the people that I've interviewed on the podcasts have come from what I would describe as a very mathematical background. So they've done a degree in mathematics or a master's in mathematics, and they've kind of fallen into A/B testing, experimentation, CRO, whatever you like to call it. You did a degree, or your Bachelor of Science in computer science. Now, that seems to be more coding, if I'm correct, than the thought of actually being able to use the aesthetics of, say, A/B testing or experimentation.
You would assume that. That was actually my assumption when I started in 2016 with the studies back then, that it would be more coding, when in fact it would the course or the courses were mostly theoretical with some theoretical computer science with some applications of that knowledge and skills. But yeah, actually, like from when I initially started, even before my studies, a lot of the things I was doing was quite design heavy. I wouldn't say it was pretty, but it was design heavy. So I was doing like web design and designing user interfaces. So I think over time, this just was a good combination of understanding tech stacks and understanding, to a degree, user interfaces and user experiences, and understanding how to research also work in user studies, etc., to what we're doing now. And I think that at some point this just shifted also to then A/B testing and having the background to go deeper in that.
So, what was the difference between being a freelance consultant way back in those early days to actually being the founder of your own business, which you started in 2017? Was that just a natural progression?
Um, it's a funny question actually, because a lot of the times I am still in my head a freelancer. At least it feels like that, and like sometimes I catch myself not understanding that I actually have a team that I can delegate or ask help from. And initially, when I was working primarily as a freelancer, I was just doing everything myself, and getting outside help was initially limited by resources, but then still also limited by mindset, something I didn't do. So even now sometimes I catch myself just doing things like working on a design for something when I could really invest my time in more effective ways, and have my team handle that when they're actually like much better at these kind of things than I am. So I think the switch really came, and is still coming sometimes, when it's about more complex topics, where it's also not just where it's understanding that it's not just me anymore.
And that's obviously quite a difficult call to make, isn't it? When you've been used to doing things on your own and you think, oh, I can do this, it's very difficult to be able to hand over that responsibility to somewhere else, especially if you feel passionate about what you do, as I'm sure you do. It's always kind of tricky to be able to say, well, I'll let somebody else do that, because you kind of have your little baby and you want to look after it, basically, I think is one of the things. But taking the step a little further on, you've been initiator of the CRO Circle, which is presumably a place where people can get understanding about CRO experimentations, and you're building a community around that. Now, give me a little bit of explanation as to why you think that's important in a market such as the German market, because I would have thought it was fairly full of CRO expertise.
Well, I think the point is with zero circles and a lot of communities in general, that it's not just the expertise that matters, but also the community around it, being able to communicate and share ideas with others that are on the same page or that you're on the same page with. And sometimes it's just a good way of just free up your mind, come up with new ideas, see how other people are doing things. And since we're in the world of optimization also, one of the things that I'm always looking for, personally as well as in business, is like, how can I optimize, how can I improve the status quo, how can I change things for the better. And I think just being in touch with people that might be further along, as you're yourself, or it's just a cool thing. And oftentimes it's just when you're working on say a project for a client, sometimes you're just sitting there and like working on something for hours, then knowing that at the end of the week or whenever there is a chance to chat with other people that have similar topics, but maybe in a bit more relaxed environment, is yeah something I was missing. So that's why I created Zero Circle in the beginning.
So I think it's a very good thing, because obviously experimentation is about ongoing improvement. And ongoing improvement is testing, then testing again, to making sure you're continually investing in what you're trying to be able to do. And I think that's probably the same when you get fresh blood, let's put it like that, people with different ideas, as you said, with perhaps some more mature ideas that may have been doing experimentation for a bit longer, and always going and feeding yourself from those and helping you to feed others, which may not be even at the stages that you and I are at, to be able to get further on. Is there a big community of CRO specialists in Germany?
Well, it depends how you define community. I think there is circles and people are talking to one another. And I think in the UX space of things, or UX side of things, there is definitely communities. But in terms of CRO, I think the community is just starting to grow. In individual disciplines, I think there are bigger communities. But for especially the CRO side of things, there could be more that's being done. Yeah, in terms of communities and engagement and building that community. But I think, for example, in Netherlands, there is the Conversion Hotel conference every year, where, and also I'm going this year, so I'm really looking forward to that. But there is a lot more. It feels like there's a lot more community already existing compared to Germany.
So the question I was going to ask around that is, do you feel that Germany is perhaps lagging behind other areas such as the US, the UK, which have been doing experimentation? It feels like a lot longer.
Mm, well, it's hard to say because oftentimes it feels like companies in Germany do a lot of things, but might not be as good in communicating that. So I can only judge from what I hear and see. But for example, compared to the Netherlands, compared to the US, where also market size is a lot bigger, I'm just assuming that the communities in the space of CRO and experimentation are bigger. And
You're listening to the shortened version of this podcast. To listen to the full version, visit your favourite podcast player and search for Webtrends Optimize or The Big Lift.